legislation, i.e. the withdrawal agreement bill, had gone through the Commons. So it would have been very odd if just today, the next day's sitting, the House of Commons basically annulled that amendment, gone through, and had a vote on the deal. And even if, and actually for once John Bercow isn't the bogeyman, because even if John Bercow had allowed a meaningful vote to take place today, all that would have happened is we'd have just had a rerun of what would have happened on Saturday, because Oliver Letwin would have put down his amendment again, and it would have been voted on.
It binds us in, and if the British public think this will get Brexit done, they're in for a shock, because phase 2 of these negotiations will last for, I predict, at least another 3 years. and it isn't Brexit. So I'm not holding back on my criticisms there. But right now, it's Bercow we're talking about, a man who seems to raise huge passions in people. Ron is a new caller from Finchley, and our first caller tonight. Ron, tell me, how do you think John Bercow has handled Brexit so far?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm a little bit biased because I'm on the Remain side, and I can't deny that he's favoured us at times in terms of.
That's very honest of you. It's very honest of you.
What I would say as well is that there's been a distinction between him being on the fence and sticking up for, and because he's certainly not meant to be on the fence when it turns into the rights of Parliament and its ability to express its opinion and to have its say, and he certainly stuck up for that. And I think some people have conflated those two things between being impartial and being on the side of Parliament at times. But yeah,
I understand that point. I do understand that point. And there are some who say, look, actually, for backbenchers, etc., he's been a very good speaker. But, when he goes and addresses students and talks about why he voted Remain, I mean, the man who's favourite to replace him for the job, an MP called Lindsay Hoyle, refuses to tell anybody how he voted in the referendum. Don't we want a speaker, Ron, in this 800-year-old Parliament who is absolutely neutral and seen to be so?
Yes. I mean, if you look back to Betty Boothroyd, I mean, she was hard as nails, but I don't think you really... she didn't have the same sort of... She didn't make herself the story quite as much as John Bercow does, which, I totally agree with that. That's, it's like a football referee. The best thing is when they don't really get mentioned and you don't really know much about them.
Absolutely.
Their whole existence is meant to be to facilitate things rather than to be the story, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it is. And Ron, in answer to my question, you've said that you think, on balance, he's been quite helpful to the Remain side.
Yeah, but I mean, there was a time when it was the other way around, I would say. But yeah, I certainly agree. But then at the same time, you've got to balance that with it is quite a Remain Parliament. So if the backbenchers are factions trying to make themselves heard, then it's naturally going to go down that line a little bit.
You've made the point very well, Ron. Others listening to that will be enraged. They'll say it's a leave country. But Ron makes the point that it is a Remain Parliament. Kirk is in Zurich. Good evening, Kirk.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm fine. I mean, I do actually accept that what Bercow did today was without doubt in line with the Letwin Amendment. However, I don't think, even though I'm completely opposed to what Boris is trying to do, but given that what is being put before the House for ratification or rejection is an international treaty, I'm not sure there should be any amendments at all, Kirk.
No, I mean, I would agree with you that today, on this occasion, he's followed protocol. He's gone with the convention, done the conventional thing. I can't argue with him on that. However, he has, historically over the last year or year plus, he has made it his agenda. That's the thing. He's switched the agenda from Parliament's agenda to his own agenda. He has an agenda. He has had an agenda, and he's maintained this agenda persistently. And he's enabled, he's opened up the House to all manner of amendments, several more of which we'll probably see tomorrow or in the coming days. And
I think we will.
It's worrying because it's not what people voted for.
Well,
he's completely changed the direction of what was supposed to happen, and it's just not. It's not neutral. It's not correct.
No, I agree with you. But a piece of good news, Kirk, for people like you and I. We may not be leaving the European Union on the 31st of October, but Bercow goes on the 31st of October. Isn't that worth celebrating?
It is. That's the one sort of light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose, yes.
Absolutely. Kirk, thank you very much indeed. You are listening to The Nigel Farage Show, live from the European Parliament here in Strasbourg. It's time for the news headlines with Thomas Watts.
The government has announced a timetable.
John Bercow pompously pontificating. I mean, did you see him on Saturday, even when there was no noise in the chamber? Order for a global audience to see it. Well, okay, that's fine. If he wants to be pompous and grand, that's great. But this is supposed to be a job where somebody does it impartially. And we know exactly where he stands on Brexit and a whole host of other issues. And I think it's absolutely dreadful. I'm so pleased he's going on the 31st of October. No extension, please. Please, no extension to John Bercow. It must not be allowed, even if Brexit does get extended. So I'm asking you, do you think this guy is just doing his job, or do you, like me, think he's been an absolute hindrance to the whole Brexit process? Nigel, I don't like the treaty. It's a recycled version of Theresa May's agreement with a tweak to the backstop. But I think John Bercow today was playing by the rule book, and I think that's probably right. But he definitely seems to favour constantly the Remain side. If there's any truth in it, I think Bercow, Grieve, Letwin and Hammond might be in collusion. Potentially explosive if true. Well, Peter Smith, it would be, wouldn't it? Although, look, I told you, we didn't know that he'd met with Sassoli, the President of the European Parliament, to talk about how an extension might work and how the European Parliament might vote. Only because Sassoli told us that. So I think he's been involved politically in all sorts of ways. I think the whole thing is a complete disgrace. I wonder what Evelyn in Croydon makes of all of this. Good evening.
Nigel, I think, quite frankly, we're going through all this because I feel Boris, regrettably, although I've supported him, I feel it's an own goal. Because, he's caused people to distrust him. And especially with the DUP. I mean, if he didn't do what he did with the backstop and the free trade, I don't think, we would have probably
I mean, he said the one thing. He hang on the backstop just quickly. Boris said, "I'll get rid of the backstop," and we did get rid of the backstop, and we've replaced it with a border between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. So that's the reality of that.
He said he wouldn't do. You can't have a prime minister making statements.
I know.
And Nigel, can I ask you one other question, please? I know you're an honest man, and you take it as it comes. The current situation of the Speaker of the House. You said in one breath he's complying with the rules by not allowing it to be asked again. Yesterday's petition. Now,
I think today he did, but I actually think, given this is an international treaty, he shouldn't be accepting any amendments at all. And I think through most of this process, he's been biased.
Can I ask you one thing? Yeah. Let's turn the situation completely around. I've got no time for Jeremy Corbyn. I voted Tory last time, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit disappointed in Boris. Although I support him, I'm a little bit disappointed. And I think this was a known goal. Now, if you turn the whole picture around, if it was Labour who was putting the petition the second time, and he refused it, would people be complaining he shouldn't have done it? No, they wouldn't, would they? So you can't really put him down for that.
Well, I mean, Bernard Jenkins made the point. Bernard Jenkins made the point today that, speakers have to make judgments. But this one consistently seems to have come down on the side of the Remainers. Now, the argument for that is that it's a Remain parliament. But even, why is he telling groups of students how he voted in the referendum? I mean, that can't be right, can it?
Well, you got a leader there who's got to lead by, and people follow. If he's doing the wrong thing, you're going to get other people doing the wrong thing. He's got to set a premise that people, I'm doing it the right way, and this is what, he shouldn't say, he made such a thing of himself that event in the hospital where this lad stopped him about his kid. And he said, photographers. Yeah. And he said, what photographers? I mean, what a silly thing to say.
Well, I heard somebody even, are you, very... I mean, this is not our debate tonight, but is your basic argument that Boris is becoming untrustworthy?
Well, I don't think he means to. I don't think he is deep down. I think, somebody, I was just going to say, I heard somebody on the bus make a statement, and I thought it was very rude. It wasn't a swear word, but it wasn't exactly very nice. And if I can say it, he said, the trouble with Boss, he suffers from verbal diarrhea. Well, that wasn't very nice, was it?
It wasn't very nice, but acceptable. Acceptable. Acceptable.
Boris doesn't think. He's got the brains, but he doesn't often think. He just opens his mouth and says, no, what cameras? And I mean, I'm disappointed in Boris. Let's put it that way. He is,
okay.
I'm with the Tories, but I'm disappointed.
Okay, Evelyn, you've made the point beautifully. Thank you. Evelyn, a disappointed Tory, thinks Boris opens his mouth without thinking. What does Andrew from Colchester make of Speaker John Bercow? Andrew, good evening.
Hi, Nigel. I think the government played a dirty trick on him today. I think they stitched him up good and proper. The main reason is that they knew what the rules were. They knew what the conclusion would be. I mean, it was pretty cut and dry with what your expert said at the start of the programme. They knew what was going to happen, but they thought, well, what we'll do is we'll get old Bercow up there. He'll have to make a decision. It'll appear that he's been nasty old Ramona again and whatever. And I think they're setting the scene for the rest of the week. They're trying to, they're going to have a few decisions being made about what's going to happen in Parliament over the next couple of 2 or 3 days. And they want to put Bercow on his toes, really.
They want victimhood, don't they, Andrew? They want to say, we are the victims. Parliament's against us, and we're on the side of the people. That's what they want, isn't it?
It's much more. It's more and more and more of this propaganda. I'm playing for the people here against nasty old Parliament, and Bercow represents one of those. And it's just a dirty tricks campaign, as far as I can see. Well, today was anyway.
And I've got this wonderful, great new deal for you, is what they say as well, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And where that's going to go, Lord only knows. But it's people against Parliament, which is a dangerous line to choose, in my view, going forward for the rest for our democracy. I mean, obviously, it's damaging what's happened over the last 3 years. But
is there some truth in it, Andrew?
I believe there is a bit of truth, to be fair. I mean, I'm a Remainer. But there's been times when I've sat there and cringed a little bit with what he's decided.
Right, well, you're the second Remainer. You're the second Remainer tonight to ring me to say, yeah, he kind of has been on the Remain side a little bit. Andrew, thank you for your call and your honesty. That was very, very interesting indeed, wasn't it? Our next caller is Chris in Colchester as well. That's bizarre. Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. Hope you're well.
I am well. So, Bercow, is he neutral? Has he been a good thing or a bad thing for this great Brexit debate?
I think it's been a bad thing. He's not. You can see in the way he conducts business in Parliament that he isn't neutral, and that he does favour the Remain side. And the difference is smart in how he goes about it. He hides behind parliamentary policies and procedures to exert his own personal preferences onto Parliament. And there are things that the general public won't really have much knowledge about or really know how Parliament runs until it gets explained. And you can tell he does it by having meetings with the Remain MPs, EU representatives, and just how he adjudicates in Parliament, whereby he'll allow opposition MPs, like Remain MPs, to get away with some unsavoury behaviour. But then if it's reciprocated from the other side, he's very quick to pull them up on that.
Absolutely. He then becomes sort of moral outrage. He's been dreadful, hasn't he, really, as Speaker?
It was good to see Bernard Jenkins pick him up on that today. And obviously he said that it would be subject to whatever investigation that he heads up.
There's going to be a committee looking into it. But the truth of it is, of course, he'll be gone on the 31st of October, and he'll no doubt go off to a big job somewhere, as people like that tend to do. And you know, in a sense, it won't matter, will it?
Well, hopefully going forwards, with it having been highlighted now, perhaps the next speaker would conduct themselves in a better way.
Well, I passionately hope the same thing too. Chris, thank you very much indeed. Peter in Oxford is a new caller. Good evening, Peter.
Hello, Nigel. How are you doing? I wanted to say two things, really. First of all, about the Speaker, and secondly, about the deal. Yes. So I think Bercow is having to do a very difficult job. He's actually, at the moment, faced with a government which has proven itself to be untrustworthy and unreliable, and he's having to do the job of holding them to line. No other Speaker would ever be challenged to prove the government wasn't lying. He, in his judgment today, said exactly what he had to say. I think he's doing his job.
Was the government lied about, Peter?
Well, what many of us foresaw was that the deal was impossible. Both Theresa May and Boris Johnson have made promises to three groups of people: the EU, the Irish, and the ERG, and of course also to the DUP. And those groups of people are not possible to satisfy. You can satisfy only two of them. In the end, it's the DUP don't.
I'm not sure that's. I'm not sure that's
so,
lying.
I mean, that quite. He said he wasn't going to do on board on the IRC, as you said yourself.
All right, fine.
And he's done so. Now, what I'm saying is that the deal is impossible. What has been achieved is what the government thinks is the best deal available. Now, you and I agree that the deal is unsatisfactory. You said yourself it's 95% similar to Theresa May's deal.
I did.
You've also said Theresa May's deal was so bad that you might as well stay back in the EU. And that's where we overlap.
Yeah.
So look where we are now, Nigel. We're in a world where we've wasted 3 years of parliamentary time. Lots could have been done that was undone because of Brexit, because of the negotiations. The economy is stagnating. The car industry investment's more than halved. Doctors and nurses, I'm a doctor, by the way. Doctors and nurses are leaving the country in droves. We're the laughing stock of Europe.
We're the laughing stock of the world.
Well,
doesn't it come down? Doesn't it come down, Peter, to one thing?
But anyway, so what I'm saying is all this has happened because people were persuaded in 2016 to vote for something that never existed. And
No. Peter, that's utter rubbish. I want to leave. I want nothing to do with this club. Run by these people who are totally out of control. It's unachievable. It's unachievable if you go down the route of a new EU treaty, and this we will. If Boris's deal goes through, we'll never get Brexit, in my opinion. Peter, the choice is easy: we remain, or we leave. We remain, or we. Peter, I'm out of time. Peter, I disagree, but we both agree Boris's deal doesn't really work. Time for the news. It's 6:31. Thomas Watts. Britain, the exit summary declarations will be required in terms of Northern Ireland 2GB. So for somebody within the United Kingdom to sell a good to another person inside the United Kingdom, they will have to fill in export declarations. That is the extent to which Boris is so desperate to meet this deadline of the 31st of October that he's been prepared, frankly, to wreck the integrity of the United Kingdom. I would suggest, perhaps, yet another reason not to support this. I say it again, it's not a deal, it's a treaty. Now, Steve says to me, Nigel, you're not angry enough. I'm beginning to think you're an establishment plant to soak up and contain the anti-EU leave, keeping anti-EU votes away from the Leavers. Well, Steve, I've fought against the people for 25 years, and I'm very, very angry, but it's measured anger, because as I get older, I learn, actually, that's a bit more effective. And I'm certainly angry at Bercow. I can't wait for the fact that he's going to be gone in 10 days' time. And I hope we get a neutral speaker that brings back a bit of integrity to the House of Commons, because I think he's done his best to destroy it. Is that angry enough for you, Steve? Nigel, clearly Bercow is trying to convince us all he is a giant amongst speakers. Impossible on so many levels, of course, says Dave. Well, yeah, John Bercow, not the tallest of people. Paul in Hemel Hempstead. Paul, has Bercow been a help or a hindrance to the whole Brexit debate?
Well, that depends what side you're on. I mean, if you actually want to leave the EU, he's certainly not been a help. If you're a Remainer, yeah, of course he's not been he's been an incredible help.
So he's a biased speaker, Paul.
You know what, Nigel? It's not even that he's so obviously biased, but it's his boldness in demonstrating it. I mean, it's the hubris. The guy, for a definition in the dictionary for hubris, there should be a picture of John Bercow. This is the great breaker with president, the great progressive who challenges us all that how else could change occur. Suddenly he seems to have lost the appetite for breaking with president, and wants to suddenly honour tradition. I mean, it's selective to say the least when he opts for breaking with president and when he opts for sticking with tradition. It's a great shame that he doesn't love change so much that he'd occasionally assist the country and those in Parliament who voted to leave, and be democratic in the process with, supporting the change that the country voted for in 2016. I mean, it's not that he's biased. He doesn't care that he even looks biased. I mean, the hubris is so odious.
He doesn't. Paul, you made me laugh there by saying there should be a picture in the Oxford English Dictionary of him. I rather like that. He does, I have to say, he does seem incredibly pleased with himself, doesn't he?
I mean, it's staggering. I mean, I don't know who this guy thinks he is. I mean, as I say, the hubris is so odious that he doesn't care. This guy is on a serious power trip. I mean, anybody watching there can see that his bias is just unequivocal. It was so predictable what was going to happen today. Technically speaking, and I know that what he did today was correct, but where's the consistency? It's a double standard. The consistency is that he's always biased against Lee or against those of us who want to leave.
He quotes laws today going back to 1604 to justify what he did, and yet other times he's completely broken precedent by allowing MPs to put forward legislation, not the government to put forward legislation. So,
but this is the thing. John doesn't care about that, Nigel, because John has one authority of what matters in this world, and that is John himself. Now, this is a guy who his whole reign, and I use that word selectively, as Speaker, is been built on breaking with President in 2019, progressive and challenging the parliamentary traditions, and then suddenly he wants to refer to 1604. The guy's a joke.
Yep, absolutely, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I rather agree with Paul. But hey, come on. Someone tell me. He's been a great speaker. He's been absolutely neutral and played it down the line. I want to hear from you on 0345 6060 973. Nigel, the Speaker of the House, played by the rule book, but he decides when to and when not to, and is always in favour of the Remain side. And he goes on to say, all we need is one veto to the extension, and we leave on no deal. Who could it be? Poland or Bulgaria? Andy, I don't know. Hungary was the favourite, Viktor Orban, pretty Eurosceptical, himself very critical of the power that the European elites exert over countries. So maybe Viktor Orban from Hungary would give us the veto. And then you actually sort of study it and realise that between 2.5% and 3% of Hungarian GDP is money from the European Union. And you realise why, actually, it's not going to happen. Anne is calling from Heatherset in Norfolk. Anne, good evening to you.
Hello, Nigel. Well, I won't be back in Bercow, I'm afraid. I really was opening my eyes to him when they had, 16 potential amendments, and he picked Yvette Cooper's no deal in that. And that was the turning point, because when, you negotiate your car insurance, you don't say, well, charge me what you like. You don't like it, you can walk away. And that was really, I don't know what the three were that he didn't pick, but I dare say they were all Leave ones. And he's continued to do it. And yes, by the letter of the law today, he might be right. I don't know enough about Parliament. But I wanted to punch his nose today when I was watching the Northern Ireland thing, because they go on about the backstop, all this, what you were saying about the document. But I don't really know what Northern Ireland want. We've got to have something in place.
Anne,
we have a great big ship coming in from China into Felixstowe. All the paperwork's done in the North Sea. I don't really understand.
I get all of that. I get all of that. I get all of that. But when you tell the DUP, and by the way, I've spoken to the DUP today, and they are incandescent. Now they've discovered.
But what do they say we should do? I don't have a problem. They'll do whatever they want.
Well, they say.
I don't know what they want.
They want to be part. Anne.
I know they want to be part of the UK.
They want to be part of the UK. So why would they be?
Haven't we? These goods that are coming from Southern Ireland to Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
We've got to do something with them. We can't just let them all come in without any paperwork. It would be no different than coming in from France. I wouldn't say paperwork, it's probably the wrong word. Coming in from France, would it? In fact, there's a C in the middle rather than just a H. But what would they suggest?
But don't you see, Anne? Anne, don't you see that they've been hived off? They've been hived off.
Yes, I don't agree with this. I see where they're coming from that, but they also don't want the backstop. So what are we going to have instead? I haven't heard anybody come up with something physically.
We swapped the backstop. We swapped the backstop for what we've now got, which is part of the UK being separated off. And
I'm
the
quite happy.
only way...
Irish, I would go with what I've not, we used to work with the Northern Irish right back in the 60s. No problem with them at all. But we've got to come up with something. The only thing I heard was totally slightly off piece. Somebody said the other day, we didn't vote to go in the EU, so why do we have to vote to come out? Because we vote to go in the common market, and we have just been...
Actually, I'm just going to correct you slightly, Anne. We didn't vote to join the common market. Parliament took us in, and there was a referendum later on. But we've had a vote to leave, and it's not being honoured. We'll only get it if we leave with a clean break, is my view. Anne, thank you. On Twitter, give Bercow a cowboy hat. He's brought the Wild West to Westminster and thrashed the Constitution. Lots of anti-Bercow. Come on, somebody who's pro-Bercow, give me a call. It is now time for the news headlines at 6:45 with Thomas Watts.
The government will introduce Brexit legislation tonight in an attempt to push its deal into UK law. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ended his attempt to form a new coalition government. New research suggests spikes in air pollution trigger hundreds of extra cardiac arrests and strokes. A dry and cloudy night for many, a low of 2 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. On the M25 clockwise, it's very slow after an accident earlier on between junction 26 for Waltham Abbey and junction 27 for the M11. Clockwise on the M25, a lane is also closed at junction 28 for the A12 because the car's broken down. There are still long delays on the M25 anti-clockwise to the Dartford Tunnel from junction 3 for the M20 after a lorry broke down earlier. On the Underground, there are severe delays on the Metropolitan line between Harrow on the Hill and Aldgate because...
Actually, the quality of life for vast numbers of us goes down, and whether that's just trying to get around on the Underground in London or driving up the M6 or whatever it may be, I've just always felt we haven't got the infrastructure to cope with this kind of increase. The reason the population has increased so much since 2001, well, 75% of that increase of population has been directly because of immigration, directly or indirectly because of immigration. And you can argue immigration's a good thing and we need it. You can argue we need workers. You can argue all these things. But I would argue that actually the way we've conducted this has lowered the quality of life for a lot of people. It would, on any other day, have been worthy of a full debate this evening. But hey, Brexit, I'm afraid, is there. And of course, John Bercow is there. And I can't get away from that. Gordon is a new caller from Herrenberg in Germany. Gordon, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Farage.
Hello there. So, watching it all from Germany, how does John Bercow appear to have handled Brexit as Speaker?
Well, I don't think he was handling Brexit. I think he was handling the rules of Parliament. That's my first impression. Yeah, I really don't think that Mr. Bercow in any way biased. I mean, he's a conservative in the same way as you are, Mr. Farage.
I don't think so, Gordon. No, I really don't think so. Well, I mean, he might have been elected as a Conservative, but I mean, he's only in the position because of Labour votes, isn't he? It's Labour MPs that made him Speaker. Labour MPs made him Speaker. Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of things on Twitter and so on. Rules are rules, and that's the way Parliament is run. And Mr. Bercow is doing his best to adhere to those rules and make sure that the government sticks to those rules. And that's just the way it is as far as I'm concerned. The view from Germany is, well, obviously, most people here think that everybody in the UK is just being crazy about the whole thing. Brexit doesn't seem logical to Germans. But, you know that. You've had a German wife, you've got German children, you've got a German passport yourself, for goodness sake.
No, I don't. No, I don't. What are you on about? What are you on about?
You should get one. You might not be able to travel if you haven't got one.
Oh, don't talk rubbish, Gordon. Honestly, what are you on about? What are you on about? We're able to travel all over. We're able to travel all over the world.
I apologise, Mr. Farage. I'm a fairly radical Remainer. I've been living in Europe.
I'd never have guessed. Well, we love you,
living
Gordon.
And working in the Netherlands, in France, in Germany for the last 35 years.
Gordon, I love Europe. I love Europe. I've worked for European companies.
Great,
I love
great.
Europe. I hate the European Union. I hate this attempt to take away individual nation-state democracy and have it run by Juncker and the gang. I want a Europe of nation-states that work and trade and cooperate together. What's wrong with that, Gordon?
Absolutely nothing at all. Yeah, and that's very logical. But I really think you're misrepresenting. Sorry, I don't mean that in an insulting way, but you're misrepresenting what the European Union actually does. You've been coming and going between the UK and Brussels for years and years and years, decades, and you know what it's like. What's it going to be like when you all of a sudden you're going to be held up by border checks? You're going to be held up in all kinds of ways.
Gordon, my hope is that with Brexit, a proper Brexit, not this Boris Brexit, which means we won't be out at all, but with a proper Brexit, we show that actually the best way to run a country is through an independent sovereign democracy where your leaders are directly accountable, but where you want to have as good a cooperation with the neighbours as possible. And I hope, hang on, and I hope that Brexit will change the whole of the European Union, and let's have a European Council. Let's have
which, brings us back to the question of Mr. Bercow, who really has shown that Parliament actually already has sovereignty.
Well, it's a very interesting one, isn't it? Because it's funny, those who cry sovereignty the loudest right now are those who are keenest for us to have the European Court of Justice as the ultimate arbiter. Gordon, we could argue for hours. Thank you for your call. I think we did it in a fairly civilised way, didn't we? David is a new caller from Belfast. David, tell me, as somebody from Northern Ireland, were you amazed by what Stephen Barclay said today?
No, I wasn't. But I tell you what, Bercow is not fit for purpose. And the DUP are the gatekeepers of the United Kingdom. If they say no, it's a no. And the other thing is, really, at the end of the day, all they're going to do is move the border from France to the borders of Northern Ireland for migrants to come across, because they'll be camped in Northern Ireland waiting to get to England, because that border will be open. It is no the whole way.
And presumably now, David, the DUP will back the amendment for a customs union for the whole of the United Kingdom.
Well, they can't back it. They can't back it because it's not right. It is absolutely not right. We can't be outside and inside at the same time. That's the basics of it.
It's just impossible, isn't it?
It is totally impossible. We in Northern Ireland have had 40, 50 years of fighting for the Union. And I mean, deaths, 3,000 deaths, 50,000 injuries.
I know.
We know what it's like to fight for the UK. And I mean, in more ways than one. Bercow, I don't know, not fit for purpose, should have been dumped.
Well,
3,
David,
4 years ago.
David, I'll leave it there. Thank you. And a lot of people, I should think, in Belfast, pretty astonished, actually, by what was said today. Now, just been announced in the last few minutes that the European Parliament have said there will be no ratification here in Strasbourg this week of the withdrawal agreement. And that's because the UK can't formally ratify it before Friday. So the EU Parliament could meet next week in emergency session. So it's possible, with any amendments, there need to be a European Council meeting again, perhaps this Sunday, Monday, maybe next week. The European Parliament could meet before next Thursday to ratify this. It is still technically possible that we leave on the 31st of October, though I would say it's extremely doubtful. I'm back tomorrow at 6. At 10 tonight, Tom Swarbrick. But right now, it's Ian Dale.
Nigel, thank you.